Hi everyone! Today I'm gonna be talking a bit about failures, because even though I think I am a good builder, I still end up in situations where the models just don't perform as I expected. And here in this case I have two models that I raced with at the gathering, and they both failed in their own unique ways. So I'm gonna be talking about them, explain what went wrong, and try my best to learn from failures and improve in the future. So first we have the mini charge rack here. I already removed a few pieces, but basically first let's just talk about this. This is a new concept I made for the mini charge rack, because first I used the new type of axles here, which have a really high ground clearance, because the bottom of the hubs are actually not connected to the chassis. The steering arms are basically the thing that's holding the hubs in place, and this allows me to get a really high ground clearance and very good articulation. Another thing is that I avoided having the drive axles drive the suspension or the axles in this direction, because when you put torque on the axle in the axial direction, it will cause the axle to wanna try to move under power. To avoid that, I powered the axles from the top. So basically I used CV joints, and the power comes from the top and goes to the wheels directly. Now here is where the issues first began. In order to drive the power to the axle that can tilt, I used CV joints, and I used the smaller / weaker version of the CV joint. And this CV joint works great as long as the angle is low, but as soon as there is enough angle, it will just try to pop out, and that's exactly what happened to me at the gathering. The CV joints just started popping out while driving, and I lost all power at the axle. Another thing that also failed was the gearing. There is a 7-stud axle driving the rear drive, and the axle just had enough wiggle room to slip out of the 12-tooth gear. And once an axle slips out of the 12-tooth bevel gear under torque, it usually kind of slightly deforms the axle hole, so it's no longer nice and sharp. And because the axle hole is no longer perfectly okay, it's now even more likely to slip. So once a gear is damaged, it will keep on slipping, and that's exactly what happened with bevel gears and exactly what happened here. So in the future, how to solve this issue? Basically, I would replace the normal CV joints, the small ones. Can I get one out? I'll try to get one out. Yeah, it might be a bit tricky. Well, basically, I would replace the CV joints, these CV joints, with a stronger version that is in the Audi and the McLaren. So it's a bigger one, and it clicks much better, and it will not slip under torque. And to avoid the axle wiggling out of the gear, I can easily fix that by, there are several techniques. The easiest one is to use an axle like 5.5, which has a stop, which prevents the axle from slipping out. Or I can basically put a spacer or something like that that will limit the axle traveling out. A spacer or an axle joiner or something like that. So this is what failed in this model, and I know how I'll fix it next time. Now, let's look at the mini racer. So when I was driving and testing it, this worked really nice. There were no issues. Basically, this model has all-wheel drive, one motor driving one side, the other motor driving the other side. We have normal steering in the front, so you can see how the steering system is connected here. So we have around 25 degrees of steering angle, which is basically the maximum that the CV joints allow. And yes, this model is also using this kind of CV joints in the front, because the bigger ones are basically a bit too big to fit in this model. So, what went wrong? Well, what went wrong is I always remind people when we have the gathering is that the foam that we're driving on is very sticky, it has lots of traction, which is why the wheels should be attached as best as possible to the car. And well, what happened is that I won everyone, but in the end I was the one that kept losing the wheels. So why? Well, there are two reasons for it. So the first reason is I attached each wheel with a triangle part here, which is attached with three quarter spins. So each wheel is attached with three quarter spins, and I thought this is gonna be enough to keep the wheel in place. Well, the issue is it might have been enough to hold the wheel in place, but another issue is the clutch power of the CV joint. What happened is, because I am only using half a stud to hold the wheel would start wobbling and then slowly sliding off. And once it slid off far enough, it would cause a big lever on the triangular arm and then just popped off. Another thing that probably didn't help is that this wheel arch is very close to the wheel. So once when you're steering, the tire might have started rubbing on it, and when it was rubbing, it just increased the wobbling, and then basically the wheel fell off. And of course, getting crashed into the car by several people, including Alex. Yes, you crashed into me first, I have it in video. That didn't help either. So what to do in the future? Well, there are two solutions. I can find a way to integrate the big CV joint, which will have more area to put bushes on, so it will hold better. And what I would actually also have to do is increase the area here. Half a stud simply isn't enough to hold the wheel tightly. It wobbles too much. So I would kind of have to use a similar technique as I used with the Huracan mod, but that technique takes a lot of space, and the end result is that the chassis is simply not as stiff as it could be. So next time I will probably just use normal wheel hubs like this, or even better the ones from the Audi, and bigger wheels, because that is the best solution, I think. So proper hubs, stronger CV joints, and just be careful about the clearances around the wheel so I don't lose power with the wheel rubbing over the fender and over the triangle pieces, which are kind of black here at the edge, which means that the wheel was rubbing on the thing all the time. So this is what I learned from these two models. I'm still proud of them, like the way that this doors open and you have actual working steering wheel in this such a small model, and all-wheel drive and independent drive system, and the fact that I managed to put proper suspension with proper pendular suspension and four-wheel drive and four-wheel steering in this small model. I'm really proud of the technical achievements, but in the end they were just not good enough when it came to dealing with abuse. So this is what I learned. I hope this video was informative, and if it was, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll be having more videos coming shortly. Bye bye!